Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jai Om Vishnupad, Purnamahasta Paripradhakacharya, Ashto Tulasatashi Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj, Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Sridhar Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Sakaho Shikashta Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Sriva Sadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Sri Sri Radha Krishna, Gop Gopinath, Sham Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Navadip Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Ki Jai, Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Ramana Mai Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Thank you very much for taking part in this program of reading Sri Chaitanya Caritamrta. Today is March 10th, 2023 in Vrindavan, one day earlier in New York City. And we're reading from what verse is this one? Adi Lila, chapter 5, text 41. And we're in the midst of the purport, beginning with Sankarshan, Pradumna, and Aniruddha have all the potent features. All the potent features. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I see, Om Jnana Timirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manopistam Tapitam Ena Bhutale Swayam Rupakada Mahiham Tadhati Shapadikam Mande Hang Shri Guru Shri Jatapada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Shagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lolita Sri Vishakhan Vitamstra He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deen Bandho Jagat Pate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kamshana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavanesh Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Kori Priye Manshako Pitarubhyascha Kripa Sindho Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Hare Ram Ram Ram. You could bring a glass for this prayer. Where Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami has been explaining the glories of Lord Nityananda in terms of his being identical with Lord Balaram. In this regard, he's has discussed the topography of the spiritual material worlds, and he's discussed the expansions of Lord Balaram, especially the Chaturvyuha, Sankarshan, Padumna, Vasudev, and Aniruddha. Apparently, Sripad Shankaracharya has misrepresented the nature of this quadruple expansion. And the Vaishnavacharyas have responded to his notions. So in this portion, Srila Prabhupada is now quoting Sripad Ramanujacharya's response to what's made about the Chaturvyuha in the Vedanta Sutra. As you can tell, my voice is pretty well shot, a bit of a cold. And so I'd be very happy if someone else would like to read the text. See, Mukunda Charan is just joined. I think he might be a good person to do this. Would you like to take on that task, Mukunda Charan?
Unfortunately, I am again supposed to start all the cooking for the evening program, so.
Okay. Well, who else would like to do? Roy would be good, but his internet connection is usually not that great. Nanta Shesh, would you like to read?
Maharaj, thank you, but I have some speech problems.
Okay. Well, how about Surabhi Kunj?
Hare Krishna. I might have to leave a bit early, but I mean, I don't know how much of time we'll spend reading. I have to prepare for Samadhi ceremony.
Right. Well, why don't you give us a start? And
Okay.
at some point we can switch if need be. Do you know where we are?
No, I don't remember exactly where.
Okay, it's 5. It's Adi Lila chapter 5, text 41. And as you go through the purport, there's a paragraph that begins, Sankarshan, Pradumna, and Aniruddha have all the potent features.
Is it like more than halfway through the chapter? I'm just
It's near the bottom of the purport. It's about 4 or 5 paragraphs up from the bottom.
okay. Okay. Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha have all the potent features of the absolute personality of Godhead, according to the revealed scriptures, which contain undeniable facts that no one can refute. Therefore, these members of the quadruple manifestation are never to be considered ordinary living beings. Each of them is a plenary expansion of the absolute Godhead, and thus each is identical with the Supreme Lord in knowledge, opulence, energy, influence, prowess, and potencies. The evidence of the Pancharatras cannot be neglected. Only untrained persons who have not genuinely studied the Pancharatras think that the Pancharatras contradict the Shrutis regarding the birth or beginning of the living entity. In this connection, we must accept the verdict of Srimad Bhagavatam, which says, the absolute personality of Godhead, who is known as Vasudev, and who is very affectionate toward his surrendered devotees, expands himself in quadruple forms who are subordinate to him, and at the same time identical with him in all respects. The Poshkara Samhita states, the scriptures that recommend that Brahmanas worship the quadruple forms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are called agamas, authorized Vedic literatures. In all Vaishnava literature, it is said that worshipping these quadruple forms is as good as worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudev, who in his different expansions, complete in 6 opulences, can accept offerings from his devotees of the results of their prescribed duties. Worshipping the expansions for pastimes such as Nrsimha, Rama, Shesha, and Kurma promotes one to the worship of the Sankarshan quadruple. From that position, one is raised to the platform of worshipping Vasudev, the Supreme Brahman. In the Poshkara Samhita, it is said, if one fully worships according to the regulative principles, one can attain the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudev. It is to be accepted that Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha are as good as Lord Vasudev, for they all have inconceivable power and can accept transcendental forms like Vasudev. Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha are never born, but they can manifest themselves in various incarnations before the eyes of pure devotees. This is the conclusion of all Vedic literature, that the Lord can manifest himself before his devotees by his inconceivable power is not against the teachings of the Pancharatras. Since Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha are, respectively, the predominating deities of all living entities, the total mind and the total ego, the designation of Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha as Jiva, mind, and ego is never contradictory to the statements of the scriptures. These terms identify these deities, just as the terms sky and light sometimes identify the absolute Brahman.
Yes. So it appears that Shankaracharya has tried to identify Sankarshan with the Jiva in such a way as to make Sankarshan a Jiva, or somehow on the level of the Jiva. But this is not accepted. The Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha are the presiding deities of Jiva, mind, and ego. They're not identical. Continue, please.
The scriptures completely deny the birth or production of the living entity. In the Parama Samhita, it is described that material nature, which is used for others' purposes, is factually inert and always subject to transformation. The field of material nature is the arena of the activities of fruitive actors. And since the material field is externally related with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it is also eternal. In every Samhita, the Jiva, living entity, has been accepted as eternal. And in the Pancharatras, the birth of the Jiva is completely denied. Anything that is produced must also be annihilated. Therefore, if we accept the birth of the living entity, we also have to accept his annihilation. But since the Vedic literatures say that the living entity is eternal, one should not think that the living being to be produced at a certain time. In the beginning of the Parama Samhita, it is definitely stated that the face of material nature is constantly changeable. Therefore, beginning, annihilation, and all such terms are applicable only in the material nature.
Yeah. Well, continue, please.
Considering all these points, one should understand that Sankaracharya's statement that Sankarshan is born as a jiva is completely against the Vedic statements. His assertions are completely refuted by the above arguments. In this connection, the commentary of Jayadvaita Swami on Srimad Bhagavatam 3.134 is very helpful.
Carry on.
For a detailed refutation of Sankaracharya's arguments attempting to prove Sankarshan in order an ordinary living being, one may refer to Srimad Sudarshanacharya's commentary on the Sri Bhasya, which is known as the Shruta Prakashika.
Yes,
The original
Sri Bhasha's Ramanujacharya's commentary on Vedanta Sutra. Yes. Prabhupada comments in the 87th chapter of Krishna book that Sripad Ramanujacharya has strongly refuted various impersonalist views propagated by Shankaracharya. Prabhupada mentions that there are often debates between followers of Ramanuja and Shankara, and that generally the followers of Ramanujacharya always win. All right. Continuing.
The original quadruple forms, Krishna, Baladev, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha, expand into another quadruple, which is present in the Vaikuntha planets of the spiritual sky. Therefore, the quadruple forms in the spiritual sky are the second manifestation of the original quadruple in Dwarka. As explained above, Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha are all changeless, transcendental plenary expansions of the Supreme Lord who have no relation to the material modes. The Sankarshan form in the second quadruple is not only a representation of Balaram, but also the original cause of the causal ocean, where Karanadakshayi Vishnu lies asleep, breathing out the seeds of innumerable universes. In the spiritual sky, there is a spiritual creative energy technically called Shuddha Sattva, which is a pure spiritual energy that sustains all the Vaikuntha planets with the full opulences of knowledge, wealth, prowess, etc. All these actions of Shuddha Sattva display the potencies of Mahasankarshan, who is the ultimate reservoir of all individual living entities who are suffering in the material world. When the cosmic creation is annihilated, the living entities who are indestructible by nature rest in the body of Mahasankarshan. Sankarshan is therefore sometimes called the total jiva. As spiritual sparks, the living entities have the tendency to be inactive in the association of the material energy, just as sparks of a fire have the tendency to be extinguished as soon as they leave the fire. The spiritual nature of the living being can be rekindled, however, in association with the Supreme Being. Because the living being can appear either in matter or in spirit, the jiva is called the marginal potency. Sankarshan is the origin of Karna Vishnu, who is the original form who creates the universes, and that Sankarshan is but a plenary expansion of Sri Nityananda Ram.
So again, all of these expansive descriptions concerning the nature and potency of Lord Balaram are meant to inform us about the transcendental position of Lord Nityananda Prabhu. And all right, now that we've completed this quite extensive purport, I wonder whether there are any comments or questions.
Maharaj,
Yes.
Hare Krishna, please accept my obeisances. I was just wondering, for some reason, for a long time, just this discussion of the quadruple expansion has always been like a little bit bewildering, in the sense that I can read it and I can understand it, but it doesn't seem to stick. And it just occurred to me that, can I only attribute that inability for it to stick to, I mean, the obvious answer is material conditioning. It just seems that maybe even on an intellectual level, you have to be living a certain kind of life, like the life of a sannyasi or the life of a brahmachari, to really have this stick. Or maybe I'm just too dumb, but I'm just wondering, because we come to the Krishna consciousness, and really we're mainly taught about Krishna, and Krishna is very accessible. He's a young boy, he has these pastimes with his devotees that are, very human-like in nature. And it's very intellectually stimulating and thrilling to hear about these quadruple expansions, but at the same time, it doesn't stick the way Krishna does. And I was just wondering, is that just a function of my conditioned nature and I'm just too materialistic, or is it just really too hard for anybody for it to stick with,
Well, it's certainly not too hard for anyone, because it's certainly stuck with Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami.
Yeah.
And he's narrating these topics. What I've seen is that there are pious persons who have a background of devotional service throughout their life, or throughout many lives, or a background of spiritual practice, or spiritual assets, let's say. And they have natural taste for these things. They have a natural ability to understand and remember these things. So there's like a greater, there are people with great capability. Sometimes Prabhupada said that, or sometimes he said it, and I think about it, excuse me if I use in there, that we're sort of people who've been pressed into service. We've been picked up from terrible backgrounds and uplifted to devotional service. It reminds me of the old Westerns, where to chase after the desperados, the sheriff pins a badge on some ordinary men, and they become deputies. So we've been deputized for spreading Krishna consciousness, and we've also been given engagement in hearing about and studying and understanding Krishna consciousness. But our ability to remember all of these things, or understand the context of these things, or may not be as great as others who may have a natural, lifelong. It's really going. It's all whistles now. This voice, a natural, lifelong affinity for these topics. But we don't have to be disappointed. We can, Prabhupada has sort of arranged things in such a way that the essence is up front, the essence is always highlighted. So we can focus on the things that are most important, and certainly Krishna is the most important. Krishna Stu Bhagavan Swami. He's the ultimate focus of attention. And the other things which may appear technical to us, or even not so much of interest, we can still hear with some attention. And if it doesn't stick, all right, it doesn't stick. But we benefit even by hearing it.
Thank you. I guess it just is confusing to me because it seems evident that, and by no means am I saying that I fully, or even partially to any real significance understand what it means to serve Krishna and to love Krishna. But it seems that, at least the way Prabhupada has presented it, it's so much easier than to know all this other stuff, and yet it's higher. It's the topmost. And almost I feel like I have to get this other stuff, and I can't, in order to really fully appreciate and be purified enough to be able to actually understand or serve Krishna properly. And so it feels a little hopeless in a way, that.
But we can try and understand as far as possible. And these are opportunities also for devotees who would like to research and explain these things. The position of, say, Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha is given in Prabhupada's books, but perhaps not in such a way that we fully comprehend, and given in such a way as to leave more opportunity for getting it, for understanding what is this Sankarshan, Pradyumna, Vasudev, Aniruddha? Why do they keep coming up? Why do we keep hearing about them? What is their importance? Why why this argument between Shankaracharya and Ramanuja? Why is it such a big deal that Shankaracharya even felt that he needed to talk about it? These can be topics for devotees who'd like to do further serious research and present their findings in a digested way for the understanding of others, just as there, oh my goodness, as there have been many other books, sort of going deeper into various aspects of Prabhupada's teachings or Bhagavatam philosophy. This is one such topic. We're hearing sort of a deeper analysis of Sankhya philosophy and creation. That Gopal Hari went into. We touched upon that. And there are many other such opportunities. For devotees who would like to go deeper into various aspects of our books. Many doctoral theses can be written, and many books presented. Okay, and we've lost our reader, Surabhi Kunj. Let's see who there is now.
I'll be happy to read if no one else steps up.
Well, there are lots of people. Maybe Shraddha, would you like to read?
I just stepped in. What verse are we on so I can get to where we are?
We are on Hadith 5, 42, just coming toward the end.
Finished.
We finished 42.
No, 41.
41. Yeah, we finished 41. Now we're starting 42.
Okay,
My voice is shot, and that's
I can detect, yeah. Okay, are we doing the Sanskrit and or Bengali?
yeah, if you'd like to give it a shot, you can.
I'll give it a shot. I'm not great at this, but I'll give it a shot. Tanhaye Ramera Rupa Mahasankarshana Chichaki Ashraya Tinho Kara Nera Karana. There in the spiritual sky, the personal feature of Balaram, called Mahasankarshana, is the shelter of the spiritual energy. He is the primary cause, the cause of all causes. 43. Chit Shakti Vilasa Eke Shuddha Sattva Nama Shuddha Sattva Maya Yata Vaikum Dadi Dhamma. One variety of the pastimes of the spiritual energy is described as pure goodness, Vishuddha Sattva. It comprises all the abodes of Vaikunta. Shad Vidaishwarya Tanha Sakala Chinmaya Sankarshanera Vibhuti Shaba Jani Hanishchaya. The 6 attributes are all spiritual. Know for certain that they are all manifestations of the opulence of Sankarshana. Jivanama Tatashtakya Eka Shakti Hai Mahasankarshana Shabe Jivera Ashray. There is one marginal potency known as the Jiva. Mahasankarshana is the shelter of all jivas.
Yeah. So this is, again, technical. We say that all living entities are expansions of Krishna. And this is how they're expansions of Krishna. Jivanam Tatastakya. Jiva is also known as Tatastha Shakti because he exists between the material and spiritual realms. And that is, he can turn toward material or spiritual realms. And he's the living entity is one Shakti of the Lord. Vishnu Shakti Para Prokta Kshetra Gyatya Tata Para. Then Avidya Parmasanganya Tritiya Shakti Vishite. The Lord has his spiritual potency, marginal potency, and the inferior potency, the potency of ignorance. So the living entities, or the Tatastha Shakti, are manifested from Mahasankarsana. He is the Sabjibir Ashray. He is the shelter of all the living entities. So he's also sometimes called Jiva, as discussed at length in the previous verse. Any questions about this?
I can continue if you like.
Please.
Yan ha haite vishwotpati yan ha te pralaya Jay Purushera Sankarshana Samashraya. Sankarshana is the original shelter of the Purusha, from whom this world is created and in whom it is dissolved.
So that's another feature of Sankarshan, that the Purusha avatars are expanded from Mahasankarshan. We say in summary that all these different incarnations or expansions of Krishna, but more explicitly, they're expanded from the Mahasankarshan. Mahasankarshan expands as the Purusha avatars, and from the Purusha avatars come all of these incarnations described elsewhere in Chaitanya Charitamrta. So the jivas are the energy of Mahasankarshan, one energy, Mahasankarshan, and these various Vishnu forms, starting with the Purusha avatars, are also manifest on Mahasankarshan. Yes.
Sarvashraya Sarvadbhuta Aishwara Apara Ananta Kahite Nare Mahima Yanhara. He, Sankarshana, is the shelter of everything. He is wonderful in every respect, and his opulences are infinite. Even Ananta cannot describe his glory.
Yes.
Turiya Vishuddha Sattva Sankarshana Nama Tinho Yanra Amsha She Nityananda Rama. That Sankarshana, who is transcendental pure goodness, is a partial expansion of Nityananda Balaram.
Sankarshan is a partial expansion of Lord Balaram, and therefore he's can also be called a partial expansion of Nityananda, because Nityananda and Lord Balaram are identical. Yes, that's the pointer.
Ashtama Shlokera Kaila Sankshepe Vivarana Navama Shlokera Arta Shuna Diyamana. I have briefly explained the 8th verse. Now please listen with attention as I explain the 9th verse. Maya Bharta Janda Sangha Shrayanga Shete Shakshat Karanam Bodhi Made. Sorry, I don't have the meter here. Yasyaikam Sha Shri Puman Adi Devas.
Wait, where are you? Oh yeah.
50.
Well,
So,
Ashtama Shlokera Koilo Sankshepe Buron, Navama Shlokera Arta Shunadiyamon, then Maya Bharta Janand, Maya Bharta Janda, Sanghashrayanga, Shete Sakshat Karanam Bodhi Madhye, Yasyaikan Shri Puman Adi Devas, Tam Sri Nityananda, Tam Sri Nityananda Ramam Prapadye. That's our 9th verse.
I offer my full obeisances unto the feet of Sri Nityananda Ram, whose partial representation called Karanadakashayi Vishnu, lying on the Karana ocean, is the original Purusha, the master of the illusory energy and the shelter of all the universes.
Yes.
Text 51. Vaikuntha Bahire Ye Jyotirmaya Dhamma Tahara Bahir Karanarnavanama. Outside the Vaikuntha planets is the impersonal Brahman effulgence, and beyond the effulgence is the Karana ocean, or causal ocean. Purport: the impersonal glowing effulgence known as impersonal Brahman is the outer space of the Vaikuntha planets in the spiritual sky. Beyond that impersonal Brahman is the great causal ocean, which lies between the material and spiritual skies. The material nature is a byproduct of this causal ocean.
Yeah. So we're looking at this, of course, from the viewpoint of Vaikuntha. If we look from our viewpoint, first there's the material world, then there's the causal ocean, then there's the Brahman effulgence, then there's Vaikuntha. Starting from Vaikuntha and looking downward, as it were. First of all, we have the outer space of the spiritual sky. Here in the material world, outer space is space. So usually understood to be a dark, empty region. But in the spiritual sky, outer space is filled with the radiant effulgence of the Brahmajyoti. Then, which is outside of the Vaikuntha planets. It's the outer space. Then outside means between, beyond, and just as space is beyond each planet, not that all the planets are together and then you get to outer space. So you get Vaikuntha planets with all of this Brahmajyoti surrounding them. And then we come to the causal ocean, which lies between the material and spiritual sky, material and spiritual skies, and then material nature is a byproduct of the causal ocean. Okay.
Karanodakashayi Vishnu, who lies on the causal ocean, creates the universes merely by glancing upon material nature. Therefore, Krishna personally has nothing to do with the material creation. The Bhagavad Gita confirms that the Lord glances over material nature, and thus she produces the many material universes. Neither Krishna in Goloka nor Narayana in Vaikuntha comes directly in contact with material creation. They are completely aloof from the material energy. It is the function of Mahasankarshana in the form of Karanodakashayi Vishnu to glance over the material creation, which is situated beyond the limits of the causal ocean. Material nature is connected with the personality of Godhead by his glance over her and nothing more. It is said that she is impregnated by the energy of his glance. The material energy, Maya, never even touches the causal ocean, for the Lord's glance focuses upon her from a great distance away. The glancing power of the Lord agitates the entire cosmic energy, and thus its actions begin at once. This indicates that matter, however powerful she may be, has no power by herself. Her activity begins by the grace of the Lord, and then the entire cosmic creation is manifested in a systematic way. The example of a woman's conception can help us understand this subject to a certain extent. The mother is passive, but the father puts his energy within the mother, and thus she conceives. She supplies the ingredients for the birth of the child in her womb. Similarly, the Lord activates material nature, which then supplies the ingredients for cosmic development.
Yes, the Aham Bija Pradapita. The Lord is the Tasam Brahma Mahajyonir Aham Bija Pradapita. Mahad Brahma, the material nature, is the mother of the living entities, and the Lord is the seed-giving father. The Lord's impregnates the material nature, but transcendentally from afar, from a long distance. Prabhupada says, Sa aikshata, sasrijata. Just by glancing, the Lord creates pregnancy in material nature. His glance is so powerful. His glance is so powerful. We hear sometimes, even a glance, a king's glance may be powerful. He glances in a certain direction and everyone starts to tremble. Or if he gives a benevolent glance, then that works that works the opposite way. But his glance has limited power and for a limited time. But the power of the Lord is unlimited, and by his glance, he can agitate the entire material energy, set it in motion, infuse it with life. And so he does that just by his powerful glance. And then material nature provides the ingredients for the bodies of the living beings. Just as here in this world, the living entity is spiritual by nature, the seed of the living entity is given by the replaced by the father in the womb of the mother, and the mother supplies from her body the ingredients for the body of the child. So by a similar process, the Lord impregnates the material nature with life in the form of the jivas, and material nature does the rest. Okay.
I think Tulsi Priya has a question.
Okay.
I just wanted to get clarity. So the causal ocean is itself completely spiritual and does not come into contact with the material energy, correct?
It's between the two.
Okay.
Beyond that, I can't tell you very much.
Thank you.
And Shara is asking if we should end a little early today so you can rest your voice, Maharaj.
Well, a little early is like 5 or 10 minutes this way or that. I don't think it's going to make much difference, but thank you, Shar.
Thank you.
But we'll hand it over to you again to continue the reading.
Material nature has two different phases. The aspect called pradhana supplies the material ingredients for cosmic development, and the aspect called maya causes the manifestation of her ingredients, which are temporary, like foam in the ocean. In reality, the temporary manifestations of material nature are originally caused by the spiritual glance of the Lord. The personality of Godhead is the direct or remote cause of creation, and material nature is the indirect or immediate cause. Materialistic scientists, puffed up by the magical changes their so-called inventions have brought about, cannot see the real potency of Godhead behind matter. Therefore, the jugglery of science is gradually leading people to a godless civilization at the cost of the goal of human life. Having missed the goal of life, materialists run after self-sufficiency, not knowing that material nature is already self-sufficient by the grace of God, thus creating a colossal hoax in the name of civilization. They create an imbalance in the natural self-sufficiency of material nature. To think of material nature as all in all, not knowing the original cause, is ignorance. Lord Caitanya appeared in order to dissipate this darkness of ignorance by igniting the spark of spiritual life that can, by his causeless mercy, enlighten the entire world. To explain how Maya acts by Krishna's power, the author of Sri Caitanya Caritamrta gives the example of an iron rod in a fire. Although the rod is not fire, it becomes red hot and acts like fire itself. Similarly, all the actions and reactions of material nature are not actually the work of material nature, but are actions and reactions of the energy of the Supreme Lord manifested through matter. The power of electricity is transmitted through the medium of copper, but this does not mean that the copper is electricity. The power is generated at a powerhouse under the control of an expert living being. Similarly, behind all the jugglery of natural laws is a great living being, who is a person like the mechanical engineer in the powerhouse. It is by his intelligence that the entire cosmic creation moves in a systematic way. The modes of nature, which directly cause material actions, are also originally activated by Narayana. A simple example will explain how this is so. When a potter manufactures a pot from clay, the potter's wheel, his tools, and the clay are the immediate causes of the pot, but the potter is the chief cause. Similarly, Narayana is the chief cause of all material creations, and the material energy supplies the ingredients of matter. Therefore, without Narayana, all other causes are useless, just as the potter's wheel and tools are useless without the potter himself. Since materialistic scientists ignore the personality of Godhead, it is as if they were concerned with the potter's wheel and its rotation, the potter's tools and the ingredients for the pots, but had no knowledge of the potter himself. Therefore, modern science has created an imperfect, godless civilization that is in gross ignorance of the ultimate cause. Scientific advancement should have a great goal to attain, and that great goal should be the personality of Godhead. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that after conducting research for many, many births, great men of knowledge who stress the importance of experimental thought can know the personality of Godhead, who is the cause of all causes. One who knows him perfectly, when one knows him perfectly, one surrenders unto him and then becomes a Mahatma.
Yes. The Srila Prabhupada discusses here the remote cause and the immediate cause. When something happens, there's an immediate cause, but behind it is a remote cause. The example is given of the pot, where the immediate cause is the ingredients, the mud, and then you have the potter's wheel. But finally, you have the potter. The potter is the ultimate cause of the pot. Just having a lot of mud and a wheel going around or sitting there is not going to give you a pot. There has to be a potter with a particular intention in mind, a design, capability, strength. Then he manipulates the potter's wheel and the mud. Then you get a pot. So Prabhupada's criticism is that science, modern science, has concerned itself with the mud and to some extent with the wheel, but not with the potter. And that's where we should be looking, the Tato Brahma Jigyasa, Janmadyasya. The real research or the really intelligent inquiry looks toward the question of the ultimate cause, not just the immediate cause. The immediate cause is of interest, but if we stop at the immediate cause, we haven't really understood what's going on. Well, where is this all coming from? Even a child generally is inquisitive in that way. Where does this come from? Yeah, but where does that come? Yeah, but where does that come from? So following a kind of where from chain or a why chain, Why this? Well, then why that? But then why that? So that's naturally intelligent. But at some point, scientific inquiry turns aside from this larger, more important question, sort of gives up on it for a lack of, well, we won't even get into why they give up, but they give up. They busy themselves with the immediate cause and then become, what's the word, infatuated with all that we can do. We can manipulate it this way, we can manipulate it that way, we can make this happen, we can make that happen, we can find out how this works, we can find out how that works, and they can do wonderful things. Magic, Prabhupada calls it. But you're still, if you zoom out, you're just piddling with the details. Sometimes when I'm editing something, if I'm obsessed, and sort of tired usually, I just do things like get rid of extra spaces or simple spelling errors, and leave for another day the question of how this essay is organized or how these arguments fit together. I just busy myself with the little stuff. So it seems that, and of course that's a contribution. Yes, we want the little stuff to be right. But if that's all we focus on is the little stuff, then we miss the larger picture. So the scientists who are too materialistically obsessed get all involved in the potter and the wheel and miss the great opportunity to search out the origin of existence, to ask questions. Is that word, excuse me, is that origin cognizant, or is that origin merely, is it lacking in cognizance? Is it like, is it like a material object or more like a living being? They don't, they miss the opportunity to pose these questions, to say nothing of getting them answered. Prabin has an argument, which we'll look at very briefly. The potter may be the chief cause, but without the clay and the tools, no pot can be made. So the chief cause is not so chief. It is dependent on other causes, except that our chief cause is not dependent. He produces the clay, he produces the tools, he produces everything by his own independent power. Objection overruled. All right, and we will now put the voice to rest. And who would like to lead Kirtan? Okay, Krishna Kaunteya, how about you? Or anyone? Anyone who knows the words can chant. Except me, my voice is shut.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Devad Paramahansa Paripradakacharya Ashtottara Sri Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Raj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gokupinath Sham Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navdeep Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Jamuna Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari. Thank you, Doug and Sharon. And thank you to all. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Thanks for reading.
Thank you,
Shah.
Guru Maharaj.
Yes, thank you for the reading.
Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Jai.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Thank you, Krishna. All right, we're off.
Hare Krishna.